Yeah. What's up, y'all?
Hey guys, welcome back to season 2, episode 3 of the Dating for Life podcast. I'm your host, Tony Jerome.
Season 2, episode trash.
It is. Oh my god, we're so excited for this particular episode. Today we have special guests Julius, Grayson, and Ashlee Matthews, soon to be Mr. and Mrs. Grayson. And we're so excited about having them on. I want to do a quick introduction of Julius and Ashlee before we start this episode. So Ashlee Matthews received her bachelor's in Law and Justice from Rowan University and is currently earning her master's in Public Administration from Rutgers University.
Whoop, whoop, spa, baby.
Yes, it's my alma mater. As well as her esthetician license from Rosary Salon and Spa. Ashlee currently serves as a workers' compensation case manager in the South Jersey area. And then we have Julius Grayson, who has received his bachelor's degree in history from Rowan University and his master's in student affairs from the University of Maryland, College Park. Julius currently serves as a college administrator in Camden, New Jersey. Welcome, guys.
What's going on?
What up,
So happy to have you guys here.
It's amazing to be here in the Hubbard zone.
Yes.
Let's get
It's actually the hub zone, but
it.
The hub zone. Tony, whatever.
it's not important.
So go ahead, babe. What's up? What's going on?
Not much, man. No, I'm super excited to be here with these guys today, yo. One of our close friends. It's funny because I think it's the running theme now. Use your resources that are closest to you to help you build success, and we value that. We cherish that motto very much so. So, when we started thinking about this episode, we thought it was very fitting that we have a couple that we have this conversation with pretty regularly. On top of them being friends of ours, we almost 9 years ago. 2 people in this room made a great decision to pledge the
Here we go.
best fraternity in the world.
And
we're just so happy to be on the same line. So Julius is my line brother. If y'all don't know, fall back, baby. So yeah, if you don't know about fraternities, go ahead and research it. So yeah, man, I'm just excited to have you guys in here to have some dope conversations, yo.
Yeah. So let's get into the actual highlight of the week. What would you say is your highlight of the week?
My highlight of the week, I always have to go first. That's the first thing. I don't understand why I always have to go first with every segment. I don't know if I had a highlight of the week, man. This week was a little long. My highlight. It was definitely Monday. I forget how long this week was. So Monday, I took the day off. I decided to spend my day off mulching. And it was a terrible idea. First of all, the first reason it was a terrible idea is because I could have definitely hired somebody to do it much quicker and probably cheaper than I did it. But I wanted to learn how to actually do it and go through the process. So I decided to use my day off and spent 8 hours doing it. But it was a highlight because in doing it, I learned, how to do it properly and what I can negotiate next year. But it also was just the most peaceful time I've had in a long time, just being outside and focusing on one thing. It was dope. So it was time to myself.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, that's good, honey. I'm happy for you.
Thanks.
Not the biggest fan of yard work, so that's not my highlight of the week.
Yeah, we know.
My highlight of the week is just Game of Thrones again. I'm just enjoying the season, and that's it.
Is that going to be a highlight for the next 6 weeks?
It probably will. It probably will. I don't really have anything else, so Game of Thrones. Ash, what you think? What's your highlight of the week?
That Julius was home finally because he's been gone for work the past 2 months, and he finally didn't leave me in the house alone. So, that was nice.
That's good.
Nice little highlight.
Yes, quality time. That's always good. Joe?
So I definitely think just us preparing to come down here, we were super excited to come down here because, as Ashlee said, I haven't had like a full week home in the past few months, and so just preparing to come down, chill. I always love coming to kick it with y'all because just decompress, kick it, and just being around family and love. So coming down, being with y'all, being with the lady.
Nice.
Dope.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this episode, we've gotten a lot of requests to do an episode about finances. And so we thought you guys were so fitting, as Tony said earlier. So let's get into the topic of the actual week. You ready? Let's do it. All right, so this week's topic is money bags. And we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about money, finances, financial planning, financial literacy, and kind of just get into what that looks like for a couple who is just trying to build together. And so, Tone, you want to take us in? What's up?
Yeah, no, man. This is a significant topic for us in making sure. I think last season we went through a lot, talking about how we plan. I think we did 2 episodes on planning, right?
We did.
Talking about how we plan, how we try to structure our lives, how we make sure that things are in order before we start progressing to the next thing. We give a little bit of information on us purchasing a home, and this is the substance and the foundation of everything relating to how we got to that point. And even recently, coming back into season 2, episode 1. We're talking about the struggle is real and where we are in life now. So we thought it most fitting to have this conversation about something that's it's a little taboo to talk about is money, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you start talking about money, people get a little uncomfortable, whether it's your spouse or family.
True.
But we've come to realize that the only way to not have this be so taboo is to talk about it openly. And I've gotten to that point in my life where, if it's anything I need to share, with the exception of somebody asking me directly, which people do, hey, how much do you make?
Which is awkward.
It's super
That's just
awkward.
Weird.
Super awkward. But yeah, man, so I thought it was fitting for us to have this conversation. And, these two are some of our inspiration.
Yeah.
We're all on this debt-free journey together. So yeah. Yeah, that's...
I guess the first thing that comes to mind is having full disclosure with your partner, and not allowing anything to be too taboo or too controversial to talk about. And so working with your partner, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Understanding special characteristics and understanding like where your partner is from, what they learned with their family, what is their family's relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
Because more than likely that is something that person has just brought into the relationship or the situation. And so I think that's important. I mean, I don't know, does everybody else feel that way?
Most definitely. I think when we talk about money, it's really important to phrase it just as personal finance, because it literally is personal finance. You can talk to somebody about different ways to look at money, but their way in which, or just their perspective, is really shaped on, like you said, their family, all the different things they experience. And like with Ashlee, not just because I came to her and I was like, I learned about this way to look at money. That wasn't sitting well for her because of where she was situated with money. And so yeah, definitely the aspect of making sure that when we talk about money, it's personal finance, and something that's really important is the relatability. You got to be able to meet people where they're at, because if you're not really able to meet people where they're at when you're talking about finances, they're pretty much going to tune you out probably within like the first minute.
Is that significant for like your spouse, or are you talking about family, friends, when you meet people?
I think for everyone, honestly, when you talk about family, friends, and spouse, because as we talk about relatability, I think it's when you're sitting down and you're having a conversation with your family, I think there's already like a base level of relatability because you grew up in a household with them. You already know what the relationship with money is like. But as you start to make your way up to graduate from college, graduate from high school, go to college, if you start making different levels of income that you were used to, the relatability changes. And then even when you start going out there and you're dating, the relatability changes. Like, I don't know if people even really think about it, but like when you're getting ready for a date, or I know guys think about it, they're like, let me think about how much this date is potentially gonna run. Maybe that's just a me thing. Like, I'm like, I gotta budget out. Kind of like, the movie with Dave Chappelle, Half Baked, bro, when he went out on a date with the girl, and he's like, I got a few dollars on me, and like they had the little ticker at the bottom of the screen of how much money he had, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna make this happen. Even on This Is Us, when he first said,
and he did fair.
Yeah, he was like,
you're
he was like, I don't know if I wanted to win you a prize or get you an umbrella, and she was just like, oh. But like
but that's how you find real love, man. That's how you find real love when you budget your first date. What? I'll never budget our first date.
I don't know. Did you?
Let's stop that right now. But actually, like, you know, I know you guys came from two different backgrounds. You know, Julius being super Jamaican, and you've been
super Jamaican.
You've been African American. Do you see, understand, based on your relationship this far, do you think your culture shaped you guys differently on like how you look at money?
So his mom is so funny. It's like me. She very much likes to shop and spend. He's his own little person. Like, he doesn't like to spend money. He doesn't like to do too much. So I don't know. Like, I feel like it's just something that you learn. His culture is pretty similar to mine. I think it's also more so where you are. And in New York, like, they have so much more that they can do, so much more to buy. So their spending habits are obviously a lot different. And then just the way that I was raised, my parents love to spend money. So me and his mom was like best friends.
And I think that even goes back to what we were talking about earlier, because her and I always have the conversations. I was like, growing up, my older brother, he always had the flyest Jordans or the flyest outfits, and I was like, oh, that's dope. And then there was a point in time when I look back on it now, I'm just like, I was in high school running track, and I was also working 2 jobs. I worked at like Abercrombie in a club store in the mall, and I would get my money, and I would go out and buy Ed Hardy shirts, True Religion jeans, went to the sneaker
You definitely
store.
had mad Ed Hardy shirts. you heard mad Ed Hardy shirts when I met Julius in early 2010 before we pledged, and I was like, wow, this dude still have mad Ed Hardy shirts. Like, you're a college student. But yeah, not to cut you up, but I had a follow-up question with that, like, you know, based on your family dynamics and based on the direction you guys came in, the mindset you guys came in with, like Alana and I, one of the first things we decided to do was, and it's a difficult conversation, right? It's super awkward, you know, especially if you're early on in your relationship, because there's no real right time to have this conversation. But we started discussing our debt, right? Alana was in a space where, you know, she was in college. I think her father was funding part of her college tuition. Undergrad. I had gotten mostly scholarships freshman, sophomore year. So I didn't have much debt at all. And then come junior year, I'm now having to potentially consider student loans. So we're talking about that very early on. Probably, I don't know if we were even like really dating yet. But we needed to understand like what our financial trajectory stood.
In addition to that, trajectory is everything, because like I had plans of going to law school, and I knew law school wasn't free, and so I knew that I would actually have to put myself through law school, and so that meant student loans, because I did not have over $100,000 just laying around. So yeah, it was a thing to basically decide, or let Tony know ultimately what my goals were, so that he knew that eventually we would have more debt than what maybe he anticipated he would have just by himself. And so I think that's very important to just early on discuss your debt, because when you do get married, you assume your partner's debt. And that has to be paid back. So it is what it is.
Partially, what I was getting to with that last part was like the shift happened when, so that was my whole high school experience. But then I think, so how it, I guess, started with Ashlee and I was like, I think we were preparing to go into 2017, and I was at the point in my job where I was working and I had leftover money, and I was just like, I mean, it's getting ready to get to become 2017. Trying to think about resolutions, I had leftover money. I was like, what should I be doing with this leftover money that's just sitting here? And I was like, you know what? Let me start like listening. Well, because I had Susie Orman's book on my iPad, and I was reading it. And then I was looking online at YouTube videos, and I started looking up stuff about budgeting, and I started learning about like Dave Ramsey and Rachel Cruz. And then while that stuff was playing,
That's a cuss word in our house.
that is a cuss word. That is a cuss word. Even then, when I like pulled up and started